Arieh, let's go back to the weeks leading up to January 6th. You actually tweeted 2 weeks in advance that you thought the armed militias would be likely to try to storm the Capitol. What were you thinking at that time, and what were the signs that you saw?
So if we go back even further to the summer of 2020, the huge number of Trump supporters, Republicans, who thought there was zero chance he could lose. Whenever they saw any evidence that Joe Biden was in the lead, a poll, any kind of research, they just didn't believe it. They said it was all fake, it was all fixed. And of course, they were supporting this by Trump, who was telling them that the whole country was on their side and they were going to win 40 states, they were going to win California. And as election day came closer and closer, they just became more and more sure. So on the day of the election, when it became within a day or two pretty clear that Joe Biden had won and had won a decent number of electoral seats, they didn't change that view. And with Trump also echoing it, he kept saying to all of his supporters, including his most hardcore believers, that he was still going to win and they're going to see how any day now. And they believed him. They believed that he had a plan. And that any day now he would be returned to office and it would all be proven that the election was fake. And as time went on, the last possible day they could carry on believing that was the day that Congress would have confirmed Joe Biden as the winner, January the 6th. So then when Trump himself took to Twitter about 3 weeks before January the 6th and said, come to Washington, D.C. for a big rally, it was pretty clear to me that this was only going to go one way. All of these people, thousands of them, tens of thousands, you can see them beginning to organize, plan, carpool, take time off work. Were going to come to Washington, D.C. thinking that they were going to see Trump's victory. And when they realized that that wasn't going to happen, they were going to be really angry.
Now, you've commented that you thought the signs were so obvious that there was no need to report them to the FBI. How do you think the US authorities missed the warning signs?
I still struggle with that. I think that there is an element at the top of some of these, especially federal institutions like the FBI and the Secret Service, that just was not equipped to think that there could be a threat from Trump supporters. They were busy looking to the left, looking for Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and they knew that it just wasn't acceptable to pass up the chain of command the suggestion that Trump's own supporters might be a problem. So I think that is part of it. And I think there's also a sense that they didn't want to overreact because they were worried that if they did deploy, say, the National Guard troops to potentially keep the Capitol safe, Trump as president could just take over those troops with a word and then, turn them against the Capitol himself. So there's also that worry in the background.
You've recently published a piece about how the day's events could have turned out so much worse. Can you tell us about what could have happened and why you think those events didn't unfold? So
there were so many things that could have happened. If there had been a large counter-protest from anti-Trump people, probably would have happened the night before, on January the 5th, then I think you would have seen significant street clashes and the possibility, like I said, of the authorities siding with the Trump supporters under orders from the White House. That didn't happen because, the people who were against Trump saw this one coming and stayed away en masse. More worryingly, I think, we could have seen, and it's really only luck that this didn't happen, the mob that took the Capitol taking hostages. They never came face to face with any members of Congress because of the fast thinking of Officer Eugene Goodman and others. If that had happened, I think we would have had a really dangerous hostage situation that would undoubtedly have led to more deaths, whether of some of the rioters themselves or possibly congressmen.
And 1 year on, are you picking up signs that the US is at risk of further violence? With politics and the people so polarized, is there even a risk of a possible second civil war?
I don't think that we're going to see anything like the Capitol riot again. The sheer scale of it relied on the fact that the man in the White House told these people to come. But we're seeing high levels of kind of local violence and threats of violence all over the US, targeting public health officials, targeting school boards, targeting election officials. And I think that is likely to continue or get worse as we head towards the 2022 midterms. And we're in a situation now where there are, again, more extreme members of Congress from the Republican Party who themselves are calling for the United States to break up into separate states, that the Republican states and the Democratic states just shouldn't be part of the same country anymore. The possibility of that turning into broader civil unrest certainly exists.
You've written that it's quite possible that the 2020 was the last free and fair presidential election in America. Can you tell us what you mean by this, and what do you expect will happen in 2024?
Well, in the course of the period between the 2020 election itself and the results certification, we saw all sorts of attempts by Trump and his supporters to overturn the result at different levels of government. Those mostly failed, but they kind of learned from that how they're going to do it better next time. So we're seeing states begin to change their election processes, not just to make it harder for people to vote, but also to make it easier for them to change the results after the election has happened. We're seeing that Congress is maybe more willing to overturn a result that they don't like. And I think we're going to see these processes come into play. The state secretaries of state, the kind of key officials in every state who run elections, because elections in America are run on the state level, they're not run nationally. There are people trying to take over those positions who have said in advance that they're doing it so that they can ensure that Trump or his successor will win next time. And I think, the fact that the electoral system is so vulnerable in the United States and there are people after it means that there's a big question about whether or not 2024 will be a fair election.
Thank you, extremism analyst Arieh Kovler, for your insights. We appreciate it. Certainly, January 6th is a date of historical significance for US democracy. This is Jodie Cohen for WION World is One.